The massive alien ships appeared in Earth's sky on a Tuesday morning. Admiral Kexathera stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking down at the small blue planet through the viewing screen. His reptilian features showed no emotion as he studied the world below. This was the 301st planet he had conquered for the Zephyrian Empire. Each conquest had followed the same pattern. The aliens would arrive, make their demands, and the local species would either surrender or die. It was simple and efficient. Kexathera's scales gleamed under the bridge lights as he turned to his communications officer. The officer was a tall, thin creature with 4 arms and large black eyes. "Send the standard message," Kexathera ordered. His voice carried the authority of someone who had never been refused. The message went out across all of Earth's communication channels. Every television, radio, and internet connection received the same transmission. "People of Earth," the message began in perfect English, somehow translated by alien technology. "You are now under the authority of the Zephyrian Empire. You have 72 hours to surrender completely. Your governments must dissolve. Your military forces must stand down. Your people must accept our rule. If you refuse, your planet will be destroyed. This is not a negotiation. This is your only warning. On Earth," President Jacob Martinez sat in the emergency bunker beneath the White House. The room was filled with world leaders who had gathered through video links and secure communications. General Lisa Kane stood beside a large screen showing radar images of the alien fleet. Her face was pale as she read the numbers. 500 ships, Mr. President. Each one is roughly the size of Manhattan. Our best estimates suggest each ship carries enough firepower to level an entire continent. Dr. Alan Cooper adjusted his glasses nervously as he studied the alien vessels through telescope feeds. As Earth's leading expert on the possibility of alien life, he had spent his career preparing for this moment. But nothing had prepared him for the reality of facing such overwhelming force. "Their technology is clearly centuries ahead of ours," he said quietly. "Maybe thousands of years ahead. These ships are using energy sources we don't even understand." President Martinez looked around the room at the faces on the screens. The Prime Minister of England looked terrified. The President of Russia was already talking about surrender. The leader of China was calculating the odds and finding them hopeless. Every world leader was coming to the same conclusion. Earth had no chance of winning this fight. "What about our space defenses?" Martinez asked General Kane. Kane shook her head slowly. "We have 50 orbital defense platforms and maybe 30 operational space fighters. Our most advanced ship is the experimental UES Defiance under Captain Ryan Davis. Against 500 alien warships, it would be like throwing rocks at tanks." Captain Ryan Davis was already in space aboard the Defiance when the alien message reached him. His ship was humanity's most advanced vessel, built with experimental engines and weapons that pushed the limits of human technology. Beside him, pilot Amy Johnson was studying the alien formations through their sensors. Engineer Kevin Brooks was running diagnostics on their weapon systems, though they all knew how useless their weapons would be against such massive ships. "Captain," Amy said, her voice tight with stress, "I'm reading energy signatures from those ships that are off our charts. Whatever they're powered by, it makes our fusion reactors look like candles." Kevin looked up from his console. "Our plasma cannons might scratch their paint if we're lucky. Their hulls are showing as solid metal at least 10 feet thick. We'd need direct hits for hours just to make a dent in one ship." Davis stared at the alien fleet through the main viewer. Each ship was a dark, angular mass that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. They hung in space like black clouds blocking out the stars behind them. "Take us back to Earth," he ordered. "We need to join the emergency session." Back in the bunker, the debate was growing heated. Leader after leader was calling for immediate surrender. The numbers were simply too overwhelming. Humanity had reached space only recently. Their weapons were primitive. Their ships were few. Against an empire that had conquered 300 worlds, Earth stood no chance. "We have to be realistic," said the German Chancellor through the video link. "These aliens have given us a choice. We can surrender and live under their rule, or we can fight and watch our entire planet burn. The choice is obvious." The Japanese Prime Minister nodded in agreement. "Our intelligence suggests they have weapons that could turn our continents to glass. No human life would survive their retaliation. We must think of our people." But when Captain Davis arrived and entered the briefing room, he brought a different perspective. His uniform was still damp with sweat from the emergency flight back to Earth. "With respect, Mr. President, I've seen their ships up close. They're powerful, yes, but they're also arrogant. They came here expecting us to roll over and surrender without a fight. Dr. Cooper looked at Davis with surprise. Captain, you've seen the tactical analysis. We cannot win this fight through conventional means. Their technology is simply too advanced. Davis walked to the display showing the alien fleet. Dr. Cooper, you've studied every species we've encountered in our short time in space. Have you ever found one that fights the way humans do? The question caught Cooper off guard. I'm not sure what you mean. I mean the way we refuse to give up even when we should. The way we fight harder when we're cornered. The way we'd rather die on our feet than live on our knees. Davis turned to face the room. These aliens have conquered 300 worlds using the same tactic. They show up, make threats, and everyone surrenders. They've never faced a species that would rather burn than bow. General Kane was studying the tactical displays. Captain, even if we fought with everything we have, the mathematics are clear. They could destroy our entire civilization in a matter of days. President Martinez had been quiet during most of the debate. Now he stood up and walked to the center of the room. I've been listening to all of you, and I understand the fear. I understand the logic, but I also understand something else. He paused and looked at each face in the room and on the screens. I understand what it means to be human. The room fell silent as Martinez continued. Throughout our history, humans have faced impossible odds. We've been outnumbered, outgunned, and outmatched countless times, but we've never been outfought when we truly believed in what we were fighting for. And right now we're fighting for the only home we've ever known. The alien admiral was growing impatient as the 72-hour deadline approached. Kexthara had expected surrender within the first few hours. Every other species had seen the wisdom of submission once they understood the power arrayed against them. But Earth's communications remained active. Their military forces were mobilizing rather than standing down. Their governments were holding emergency sessions rather than dissolving. Perhaps they don't understand the message, suggested the communications officer. Kexathera's tail lashed with irritation. They understand perfectly. They're just too primitive to accept reality. When the deadline passes, we'll demonstrate why the Zephyrian Empire has never been refused. As the final hours ticked away, President Martinez prepared Earth's response to the alien ultimatum. The message would be broadcast on every channel, transmitted to every alien ship, and sent into space for any other listening civilizations to hear. Standing before the cameras with the flags of every Earth nation behind him, Martinez delivered humanity's answer. To the Zephyrian Empire and Admiral Kexathera, we have received your ultimatum and we have made our decision. Earth is not for sale, not for rent, and definitely not for taking. We are human beings and we bow to no one. If you want our world, you'll have to take it from our cold, dead hands. And we promise you this, those hands will be wrapped around your throats. The transmission ended and the countdown began. In 72 hours, humanity would face its greatest test. The question was not whether they could win, but whether they would show the galaxy what it truly meant to be human. The 72 hours passed like a countdown to doomsday. Admiral Kexathera watched the final minutes tick away on his command display. He had expected surrender messages to flood in during the last few hours. Instead, Earth's communications showed massive military mobilization. Every nation on the planet was moving their forces into position. Ships were launching from orbital stations. Ground forces were digging in at strategic locations. Kexathera's second-in-command, Commander Vexdala, studied the tactical displays with confusion. Admiral, they appeared to be preparing for battle. This makes no logical sense. Our intelligence shows they have fewer than 50 space-worthy combat vessels against our 500 ships. The Admiral's reptilian features twisted into what might have been a smile. Let them waste their lives if they choose. We will show them why no species has ever successfully resisted the Zephyrian Empire. Order all ships to attack positions. We will crush their pathetic fleet in the first hour. Then begin orbital bombardment until they beg for mercy. Captain Ryan Davis stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance as Earth's entire space fleet moved into formation around him. 50 orbital defense platforms powered up their weapons. 30 space fighters took defensive positions. Against them hung 500 alien warships, each one massive enough to blot out the sun. Amy Johnson was running final checks on their systems while Kevin Brooks worked frantically to boost their weapon output by any percentage possible. Captain, Amy reported, all Earth forces are in position. We're as ready as we'll ever be. Davis opened a channel to all human vessels. This is Captain Davis to all Earth forces. We know the odds. We know what we're facing, but we also know something these aliens don't understand. We know what it means to fight for home. Every shot you fire today, fire it for every human who ever looked up at the stars and dreamed of freedom. Show them what happens when you corner a human being. The alien fleet moved forward like a dark wall of death. Their ships were sleek and powerful, bristling with weapons that glowed with dangerous energy. The largest ship led the formation, Admiral Kexathera's flagship, easily 10 times the size of any human vessel. The battle began when the aliens opened fire first. Beams of pure energy lanced out from their ships, hitting the human defensive line with devastating force. The first orbital platform exploded in a ball of fire that lit up the dark of space. Then another. Then 3 more in rapid succession. But the humans fought back with desperate fury. Every weapon they had opened fire at once. Plasma cannons, missile launchers, and experimental energy weapons all targeted the closest alien ships. The human vessels were small and fast, darting between the massive alien craft like angry wasps attacking giants. Amy Johnson piloted the Defiance through the chaos with skill that bordered on impossible. She twisted the ship between alien weapons fire while Davis coordinated the human attack. "Kevin, I need more power to the forward guns," Davis shouted over the noise of explosions. Kevin Brooks was pushing their engines beyond safe limits, redirecting power from life support to weapons. "I'm giving you everything I can, Captain. But we're like ants trying to bite elephants." The battle raged for 6 brutal hours. Human ships exploded one after another as alien weapons found their targets. The orbital platforms, humanity's strongest defenses, were picked off systematically by the superior alien firepower. But the humans kept fighting, even as their numbers dwindled. The Defiance took a direct hit from an alien beam weapon. The ship shuddered and systems exploded across the bridge. Amy was thrown from her pilot seat, blood streaming from a head wound. Kevin Brooks looked at his engineering displays and saw catastrophic damage throughout the ship. "Captain," Kevin said quietly, "we're losing life support on decks 3 through 7. The main engines are offline. We've got maybe 10 minutes before total system failure." Davis helped Amy back to her feet. Her uniform was torn and bloody, but her eyes still burned with determination. "Can we still maneuver?" "Barely," she replied, wiping blood from her forehead. "But I can get us close to their command ship." Kevin suddenly understood what Davis was thinking. "Captain, if we ram their flagship, we might be able to damage their command systems. But we won't survive it." Davis looked at his crew, these people who had become like family during their months of training together. "I won't order anyone to make this sacrifice. If anyone wants to evacuate to the escape pods, now is the time." Kevin Brooks stood up from his engineering station. "Captain, I've been working on these engines for 2 years. If anyone's going to ram them into an alien ship, it's going to be me." He moved toward the engine room. "I can overload the fusion reactor manually. It'll give us a bigger explosion." Amy grabbed his arm. "Kevin, no. We can set the overload from here." Kevin smiled at her, a sad but determined expression. "Amy, someone needs to stay behind to make sure it works. And someone needs to get you and the captain to safety." He looked at Davis. "Captain, get to the escape pods. I'll give you 90 seconds before I trigger the overload." Before anyone could stop him, Kevin was running toward the engine room. Davis and Amy had no choice but to head for the escape pods as their ship limped toward the alien flagship. Around them, the battle continued to rage as the last few human vessels fought against impossible odds. The Defiance crashed into Admiral Kexathera's flagship just as Kevin Brooks triggered the fusion reactor overload. The explosion was visible from Earth's surface, a brief new star that lit up the night sky. The alien command ship staggered from the impact, its shields flickering and systems failing. But the victory was costly. When the battle finally ended, 80% of Earth's space fleet was destroyed. Only a handful of human ships remained, damaged and barely functional. The alien fleet had lost only 3 vessels to humanity's desperate attack. Admiral Kexathera stood among the wreckage of his command bridge, his scales blackened by smoke and his uniform torn. The human ramming attack had caught him completely by surprise. No species had ever been willing to sacrifice themselves so completely just to damage enemy ships. "Impossible," he muttered as his crew worked to restore ship functions. They fought like madmen. They threw their lives away for no strategic gain. Commander Vex Dalla was coordinating damage control. "Admiral, we have reports from the fleet." The humans inflicted far more damage than their numbers should have allowed. They used suicide tactics that our defensive systems were not designed to counter. Kexathera moved to the main viewing screen, looking down at Earth. The planet looked peaceful from space, blue and white and beautiful. But he now knew it held a species unlike any they had encountered. Prepare for orbital bombardment. We will break their spirit with overwhelming firepower. Once they see their cities burning, they will surrender. On Earth's surface, President Martinez stood in the ruins of the Emergency Command Center. The bunker had taken a direct hit from orbital debris, and emergency lights flickered in the smoke-filled air. General Kane was coordinating rescue efforts while Dr. Cooper worked to re-establish communications with surviving forces. A communication console suddenly crackled to life. It was Captain Davis broadcasting from an escape pod that had been picked up by a rescue ship. Mr. President, this is Davis. The space battle is over. We've lost almost everything, but we're still here. We're still fighting. Martinez walked to the communication station. Around him, staff members were bandaging wounds and clearing debris. The ceiling had partially collapsed, but they were still operational. Captain, what's our status? Sir, we hurt them. Not enough, but we hurt them. And sir, there's something else. They're not used to fighting enemies who won't surrender. When we rammed their flagship, I saw their reaction. They were shocked. They've never faced anything like human determination. General Kane joined the conversation. Captain, we're reading massive energy buildups from their remaining ships. It looks like they're preparing for orbital bombardment. Martinez looked around the damaged bunker at the faces of people who refused to give up even in the face of certain death. Then we moved to the next phase. General, activate Protocol 0. If they want to take Earth, they'll take a broken, burning world that costs them more than it's worth. Dr. Cooper looked up from his computer terminal.
Mr. President, I'm getting reports from around the globe.
Every nation is mobilizing their civilian populations. People are volunteering for resistance duty faster than we can organize them. It's like the entire human race has decided to fight. As the first alien bombardment beams began to fall from the sky, President Martinez prepared another broadcast. This one would go out to every human on Earth and to the alien fleet above. People of Earth and aliens listening in space. You wanted to see what humans do when we're cornered. You're about to find out. We don't surrender. We don't give up. And we definitely don't go quietly. If you want our world, come and take it. The bombardment began and Earth's real war was just beginning. The alien ground forces landed 3 days after the orbital bombardment began. Commander Vexdala led the invasion from his command ship, watching as thousands of Zephyrian troops deployed across Earth's major cities. His soldiers were equipped with energy weapons, powered armor, and advanced shields. They had conquered countless worlds using these same tactics and equipment, but something was wrong from the very beginning. As the alien shuttles touched down in New York City, they found not cowering civilians but empty streets lined with suspicious packages. The first alien patrol to move through Manhattan triggered a massive explosion that brought down an entire city block. The humans had turned their own buildings into weapons. Mary Sullivan crouched in the ruins of her elementary school, watching alien soldiers march past through a hole in the wall. She was just a teacher, but now she held a rifle taken from the National Guard armory and wore a backpack full of homemade explosives. Around her, a dozen other civilians waited for her signal. Among them was old Frank Murphy, a Vietnam veteran who had taught them how to make the bombs from household chemicals. Remember, Mary whispered to her group, we hit them fast and then disappear into the subway tunnels. These aliens might have fancy armor, but they don't know our city like we do. The aliens were discovering that conquering Earth was nothing like their previous invasions. On other worlds, they had faced organized military resistance that could be defeated with superior firepower. But on Earth, every human was a potential enemy. Children threw rocks embedded with stolen alien technology. Grandmothers poisoned water supplies. Office workers turned skyscrapers into sniper nests. In Kansas, farmer Joe Martinez had spent 3 days preparing his fields for the alien advance. What looked like normal farmland was actually a maze of hidden trenches, explosive charges, and carefully placed traps. When the alien armored vehicles rolled across his property, the ground beneath them erupted in a series of coordinated explosions that destroyed half a mechanized company. Joe sat in his farmhouse basement, watching the alien survivors through periscope mirrors he had installed. His wife Linda was loading ammunition for the hunting rifles they had modified with stolen alien power cells. Those city folks always said we farmers were backwards. Joe muttered as another alien vehicle hit one of his buried mines. Let's see how backwards they think we are now. The aliens' advanced sensors were proving useless against human tactics. Their equipment could detect energy weapons and military vehicles, but it could not distinguish between a harmless civilian and a resistance fighter carrying improvised explosives. Every human looked the same to their scanners, and every human seemed to be fighting. Commander Vex Dalla stared at his tactical displays in growing frustration. His forces controlled less than 30% of the areas they had landed in, and those percentages were dropping every day. How are we losing ground to primitives with crude weapons? He demanded from his staff. A young alien officer nervously approached with the latest casualty reports. Sir, the humans are using tactics we have never encountered. They attack our supply lines, then disappear. They sabotage our equipment while we sleep. They even use their own young as scouts and messengers. Across the world, similar scenes were playing out. In London, 16-year-old Sam White had turned the abandoned London Underground into a command center for cyber warfare against the aliens. Using stolen alien communication devices and his own computer skills, he was intercepting alien messages and feeding false information into their networks. Their encryption is really advanced, Sam explained to the group of teenage hackers working with him, but they never expected someone to physically steal their hardware and reverse engineer it. We're basically reading their mail and sending them fake orders. The aliens were learning that human children were particularly dangerous opponents. 8-year-old Lucy Chen had organized the children in her neighborhood into a spy network that tracked alien movements and reported them to adult resistance fighters. The aliens could not bring themselves to treat children as serious threats, which made them perfect intelligence gatherers. Captain Ryan Davis had survived the space battle and now led a group of mixed military and civilian fighters in the ruins of Washington, D.C. Amy Johnson, still recovering from her injuries, served as their pilot for captured alien vehicles. They had learned to use the aliens' own technology against them, though it required constant improvisation and creativity. The aliens think in straight lines, Davis explained to his team as they prepared for another raid. They expect us to fight like an organized army with clear battle lines and logical tactics. Instead, we hit them where they don't expect it, when they don't expect it, with weapons they don't expect. Rachel Stone, their mechanic, had become an expert at modifying alien equipment for human use. Their stuff is really advanced, but it's also really complicated. They rely too much on their computers and not enough on basic engineering. When we strip out all the fancy features and just focus on making things work, we can actually improve on their designs. Dr. Alan Cooper was working from a hidden laboratory in the Rocky Mountains, studying captured alien technology and biology. His research had revealed something remarkable about human adaptability. The aliens evolved on worlds with stable environments, he reported to President Martinez during a secure communication. They're specialists who are perfectly adapted to specific conditions. But humans evolved on a world where the environment constantly changed. We're generalists who can adapt to anything. The implications of Cooper's research were staggering. While the aliens struggled to fight effectively in Earth's diverse climates and terrains, humans seemed to get stronger and more creative the more desperate their situation became. Desert fighters developed different tactics than mountain fighters, who were different from urban fighters, but all of them were learning and adapting faster than the aliens could respond. President Martinez was coordinating the global resistance from a series of mobile command centers that moved constantly to avoid alien detection. Dr. Cooper, are you saying that our greatest weakness as a species is actually our greatest strength? Exactly, Mr. President. The aliens are like race cars built for a specific track. They're incredibly fast and efficient under ideal conditions. But humans are like all-terrain vehicles. We might not be the fastest or strongest at any one thing, but we can handle anything the universe throws at us. The resistance was spreading beyond Earth's surface. Human broadcasts were reaching other worlds in the Zephyrian Empire, and for the first time in centuries, conquered species were beginning to rebel. The aliens had built their empire on the assumption that all intelligent species would behave logically and surrender when faced with superior force. Humans were proving that assumption wrong. General Lisa Kane was now leading resistance operations from deep underground bunkers connected by tunnel networks that stretched for hundreds of miles. The aliens expected to fight a war, she reported to Martinez. Instead, they're fighting an entire species that refuses to accept defeat. Every day we hold out, More of their conquered worlds start asking themselves why they surrendered so easily. The psychological impact on the Zephyrian forces was becoming obvious. Alien soldiers were becoming nervous and paranoid, jumping at shadows and firing at anything that moved. Their officers were struggling to maintain discipline as casualties mounted and progress stalled. Commander Vexdala received another disturbing report from his intelligence officers. "Sir, we are detecting rebellion on 17 worlds in the outer territories. The humans' resistance broadcasts are being received across the Empire. Species that have been docile for generations are beginning to question our authority." The impossible was happening. A species that should have been crushed in days was not only surviving, but inspiring others to resist. Earth had become a symbol of defiance that was shaking the foundations of the Zephyrian Empire, and the humans showed no signs of giving up. 6 months had passed since the invasion began, and Admiral Kexthera faced the impossible truth that his empire was crumbling. The humans had not only refused to surrender, but had grown stronger with each passing day. Reports flooded in from across the galaxy as world after world began following Earth's example of resistance. The Admiral stood before his damaged command console, his reptilian features twisted with rage and confusion. "Commander Vexdala, explain to me how we control less than 30% of this primitive planet after 6 months of occupation. We have superior technology, superior numbers, and superior firepower." Vexdala's confidence had been shattered by months of defeats at human hands. "Admiral, the humans do not fight like any species we have encountered. They seem to become more dangerous when wounded, more creative when desperate. Our psychologists cannot explain their behavior. What the aliens could not understand was that humans thrived under pressure in ways that defied logic." Colonel Steve Henderson had taken command of a resistance network that spanned 3 continents. Using a combination of stolen alien technology and human ingenuity, his forces had learned to turn the invaders' own weapons against them. Henderson stood in an abandoned subway station that had been converted into a command center. Around him, dozens of screens showed resistance operations happening simultaneously across the globe. "The aliens think like a hive mind," he explained to his staff. "They expect orders from above and follow them without question. But we think like individuals working together. Every human fighter can adapt and improvise in ways their computers cannot predict." The resistance had evolved far beyond simple guerrilla tactics. Sam White, now recognized as one of Earth's most effective cyber warriors despite being only 16, had cracked the aliens' primary communication network. From his underground base in London, he was feeding false information directly into their command systems. "I figured out how their whole network operates," Sam explained to his team of teenage hackers. "They use quantum encryption, but they never expected someone to physically capture their quantum processors and study them. Now I can make their own computers lie to them." The breakthrough came when Sam discovered he could not only intercept alien communications, but also send false orders that their systems would accept as authentic. Within days, he was directing alien patrols into ambushes, ordering supply convoys to drive into minefields, and even convincing alien officers that their own troops were rebels. But the aliens were growing desperate, and desperate enemies do terrible things. Commander Vexdala made the decision that would prove to be the Zephyrian Empire's greatest mistake. "We will break their spirit by targeting what they value most," he announced to his officers. "Capture their families, their leaders' children, their innocent civilians. When they see their loved ones in chains, they will finally surrender." The mass kidnapping operation began at dawn. Alien forces swept through cities around the world, capturing anyone they believed might be important to human morale. Among the thousands taken was Maria Martinez, the 19-year-old daughter of President Martinez. The aliens believed that threatening the president's child would finally force humanity to its knees. They had never made a bigger mistake. President Martinez stood in his bunker command center, staring at the video message the aliens had sent. His daughter appeared on screen, frightened but unbroken, surrounded by alien guards. The message was simple: surrender completely or watch thousands of innocent humans die. Martinez felt something he had never experienced before. It was not fear or despair, but a cold, burning rage that seemed to spread through his entire body. Around him, his staff watched as their president's face transformed from grief to fury, to something that looked almost inhuman in its intensity. "General Kane, Martinez said in a voice that was perfectly calm and absolutely terrifying. Activate every resistance cell, every sleeper agent, every hidden weapons cache on the planet. Colonel Henderson, I want simultaneous strikes on every alien position we can reach. Sam White, shut down their communications and make their own systems attack them. The response was immediate and devastating. Every human on Earth seemed to receive the same message at the same time. The aliens had crossed the line from invasion to terrorism. What had been determined resistance became focused rage that burned like the surface of the sun. Amy Johnson led the space assault from a captured alien command ship that human engineers had modified with experimental weapons. She had recovered from her injuries and returned stronger than before, piloting with a skill that seemed to defy physics. All units, this is Johnson. The aliens think they can threaten our families and break our spirit. Let's show them what happens when they make humans angry. The coordinated attack hit alien forces across the globe simultaneously. In New York, Mary Sullivan led her civilian fighters in an assault on an alien command post. In Kansas, Joe Martinez used his network of farmer fighters to destroy 3 alien supply depots in a single morning. In London, Sam White turned the aliens' own security systems against them, causing their bases to self-destruct. Dr. Cooper was monitoring the battle from his mountain laboratory when he made a discovery that changed everything. President Martinez, I need to report something urgent. Human brain activity during extreme stress shows patterns we've never seen before. Under pressure, humans don't just maintain their intelligence, they actually become smarter. The implications were staggering. While most species became less effective under stress, humans seemed to unlock hidden potential when faced with impossible odds. Their creativity increased, their problem-solving abilities improved, and their determination became unbreakable. Captain Davis proved this theory during the assault on Admiral Kexthera's flagship. Leading a team of captured alien ships flown by human pilots, he managed something the aliens had thought impossible. His small force fought through the alien fleet's defenses and reached the command ship itself. The battle aboard the flagship was unlike anything the aliens had experienced. Davis and his team fought with a combination of tactical brilliance and reckless courage that overwhelmed the alien defenders. When Davis finally faced Admiral Kexthera in hand-to-hand combat, the alien commander discovered that human determination could overcome any technological advantage. Kexthera fell to his knees as Davis stood over him, breathing heavily but victorious. Around them, the flagship systems were failing, as human teams took control of critical areas. Impossible, the Admiral gasped. We are superior in every way. Our technology, our weapons, our numbers. Davis looked down at the defeated alien commander. You forgot the most important thing. You're fighting for conquest. We're fighting for home. And humans will always fight harder for home than aliens will fight for territory. The Admiral's death sent shockwaves through the Zephyrian fleet. For the first time in their history, they faced an enemy that had not only refused to surrender but had actually defeated their leadership. Panic spread through the alien ranks as human forces pressed their advantage. On Earth's surface, the resistance continued its coordinated assault. Maria Martinez, who had escaped during the chaos of battle, broadcast a message to the human resistance. They thought taking hostages would break us. Instead, they've shown us exactly how far we're willing to go. No alien will ever threaten human families again. The impossible had happened. Earth was no longer defending itself against invasion. Earth was winning. The death of Admiral Kexthera shattered the Zephyrian fleet's command structure like glass hitting concrete. Commander Vexdala found himself in charge of an invasion force that was collapsing from within. His officers were reporting mutinies among the troops, equipment failures caused by human sabotage, and worst of all, complete loss of control over their conquered territories on Earth. But the humans were not finished. With their space-based resistance now flying captured alien ships and their ground forces using advanced alien weapons, Earth had transformed from victim to hunter. Amy Johnson commanded a growing fleet of modified alien vessels, each one crewed by humans who had learned to use technology far beyond their original understanding. All human forces. This is Johnson, she broadcast from the bridge of the captured flagship. The alien command ship is under our control. Their fleet is in chaos. Now we finish what they started. The alien ships that had once seemed invincible were now being hunted by human pilots who flew with a combination of skill and desperation that made them nearly impossible to defeat. Every alien vessel that tried to flee Earth's Orbit found itself under attack by fighters that should not have been able to match their technology, but somehow did anyway. Colonel Steve Henderson was coordinating the global ground assault from his underground command center. Every resistance cell on Earth was now acting as part of a single, coordinated army. Target their landing sites, their supply depots, their communication arrays, he ordered. Don't let a single alien ship escape to report what happened here. The coordinated attack was devastating beyond anything the aliens had imagined possible. In every city where they had established bases, human forces emerged from hiding places that should not have existed. Sewers, subway tunnels, abandoned buildings, and even natural caves had been turned into staging areas for the largest military operation in human history. Mary Sullivan led her civilian fighters through the streets of New York, now armed with alien weapons and wearing captured alien armor. The teacher who had started the war with homemade explosives was now commanding a battalion of ordinary citizens who fought like professional soldiers. Remember, she told her troops, every alien ship that escapes might come back with more friends. We end this today. Joe Martinez and his network of farmers had surrounded the alien landing sites in rural areas. What the aliens had thought was empty farmland was actually a carefully prepared battlefield, where every field, every barn, and every road had been turned into a weapon. City folks always said farmers were simple, Joe muttered as alien vehicles exploded in his carefully planted minefields. Let's see how simple they think this is. Sam White was leading the cyber warfare assault from his command center beneath London. The 16-year-old hacker had not only taken control of alien communication systems, but had actually turned their own ships against each other. I've convinced half their fleet that the other half are rebels, he reported to President Martinez. They're shooting at each other while we pick off the survivors. Dr. Cooper was analyzing the battle from his laboratory when he made a final, crucial discovery. President Martinez, I've figured out why the humans are winning. It's not just our adaptability or our determination, it's our emotional responses. Most species become less intelligent when they're angry or scared. Humans become more creative, more determined, and more effective. Our emotions make us stronger. The revelation explained everything. While the aliens became confused and ineffective under stress, humans seemed to unlock hidden potential when pushed to their limits. Fear made them more careful. Anger made them more focused. Desperation made them more creative. The very emotions that other species saw as weaknesses were actually humanity's greatest strengths. President Martinez stood in the ruins of Washington, D.C., watching alien ships burn in the sky above. His daughter Maria stood beside him, having escaped her captors and now serving as a coordinator for the youth resistance movements. Mr. President, she said, the last alien stronghold in North America is requesting permission to surrender. Martinez looked at his daughter, this brave young woman who had refused to break even when held hostage by creatures from another world. What do you think we should tell them? Maria Martinez smiled, and there was steel in her expression that would have made any alien commander tremble. We tell them the same thing they told us. Surrender completely or face total destruction. The only difference is we mean it. The final alien strongholds fell within hours of each other. Commander Vexdala, surrounded by human forces in what had been his command bunker, sent one last message to the Zephyrian Empire's remaining fleets. Avoid the Blue World at all costs. The humans are not like other species. They do not know how to surrender. They do not understand defeat. They will fight until every last one of them is dead, and they will take you with them. Captain Davis stood in the ruins of the alien command center, watching the last enemy ships flee Earth's orbit. Around him, human soldiers were securing alien equipment and prisoners. The war that should have ended in humanity's destruction had instead ended in complete human victory. Amy Johnson landed her captured alien fighter on the White House lawn, where President Martinez was preparing to address the world. Captain Johnson, the president said as she climbed out of the alien cockpit, final casualty reports. Mr. President, we've lost millions of people. Entire cities are in ruins. It will take decades to rebuild. She paused and looked up at the sky, where human ships now patrolled instead of alien invaders. But Earth is free. And, sir, we've received messages from 43 worlds in the former Zephyrian Empire. They're all declaring independence. Our example has started a galactic revolution. The implications were staggering. The Zephyrian Empire, which had controlled hundreds of worlds for thousands of years, was collapsing as species after species followed humanity's example. The galaxy was learning that resistance was not only possible but could actually succeed. Dr. Cooper joined the group on the White House lawn, carrying a data tablet filled with analysis reports. "Mr. President, I've completed my study of why we won. The aliens built their empire on a fundamental misunderstanding of how intelligence works. They assumed that all species would behave logically when faced with superior force. But humans don't just think with logic. We think with emotion, with instinct, with pure stubborn determination to never give up." President Martinez looked around at the faces of the people who had saved their world. Soldiers and civilians, adults and teenagers, scientists and farmers, all united by the simple refusal to accept defeat. "Dr. Cooper, prepare a message for broadcast to every world in the galaxy. Let them know that Earth is free, and that freedom is available to anyone willing to fight for it." The message went out across the stars, carried by alien communication technology that humans had captured and improved. To any world hearing this transmission, this is Earth. We were invaded by an empire that thought we would surrender because resistance seemed impossible. We proved them wrong. We learned that no force in the universe is stronger than the will to be free. Resistance is not futile. Resistance is human. Captain Davis stood on the White House steps looking up at stars that no longer held threats but held promise. Amy Johnson asked him if humanity had truly won. Davis smiled as he watched human ships patrol the space around their world, knowing that those same ships were already preparing to help other worlds fight for their freedom. "We didn't just win. We showed the galaxy something they had forgotten. We showed them that some things are worth more than survival. Some things are worth fighting for even when you know you might lose. And when you fight for those things with everything you have, sometimes the impossible becomes possible." The war was over. Earth was free. And across the galaxy, the Age of Empires was ending while the Age of Freedom began.